A powerful storm system likely to bring a severe weather and potential tornado outbreak next week through portions of the lower 48. Welcome in, everybody. Hopefully, we're having an all right Thursday and starting to get to that time of the year where we talk about the things we don't want to talk about. And, unfortunately, the models overnight have really uptrended, and the Storm Prediction Center has issued new threats for that potential of large or big severe weather. I'll say by the time we get to next Tuesday and Wednesday, is when this storm system, I think, really going to hit its peak and could, again, potentially produce a tornado outbreak through portions of the lower 48. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. It's a great way to stay up to date, and consider sharing the video with someone who lives in this area. Again, we're trying to get the word out. The more people that know about this, the better. We've got a couple of days to go. Let's start spreading the word, getting the word out there now that the models are coming together and showing that big storm potential. Also, thank you to our channel members. Appreciate you folks, and really appreciate anyone watching this video. Generally speaking, winter weather is the bread and butter of my channel, but severe weather just as important. So is hurricane season. So those of you that kind of view all year round really mean the world to me, and this channel wouldn't be able to run without you. So appreciate you tuning in on this Thursday as we begin to end out February. All right, let's go ahead and dive on into the data and start talking weather and kind of give you the latest information here. Now, next to me, you can see there's the storm system by next Tuesday and Wednesday cranking up, moving through the lower 48. This is the European computer model, and you can see, obviously, a strong low pressure sub 990 millibars, bringing that big squall line with supercell potential, as well as some snow even on the northern side. And we're going to get some snow before we even get to this storm system. So if you're a snow lover, don't worry. We've got some of that on the way as well, depending on where you're watching from at least. So let's go ahead and break it down. What are we seeing out there right now? Well, satellite loop, not quiet by any means. We've got a dip in the jet coming down out of Canada. This little shortwave producing a pretty good area of some showers and snow showers in the northeast this morning. Heck, those showers even extending all the way down into the Carolinas. I'm going to pick up the wind pretty well this afternoon as well. I'd expect a pretty breezy Thursday from the mid-Atlantic up through the Northeast as this front passes through. And then you can also see we've got this big spin off the California coast. That'll be moving ashore here by the time we get to Saturday or so. And we'll talk about that one. That one looks impressive on satellite right now, but by the time we get to Saturday, Sunday, something's going to limit it. And I'll talk about what that could be here in just a moment. But I'll tell you this, radar imagery matching up for sure with what we're seeing on satellite. Told you about that trough and that stormy activity. Well, yeah, it's right where it was at on satellite. So we've got snow into the interior northeast. Maine seeing some flakes fly, New Hampshire, Vermont. If you live in any of these states, let me know how much snow you're getting. To the south, though, through Boston, Providence, Bridgeport, down to New York City, and even eventually towards the Philadelphia, Baltimore, and D.C. area. Just good old-fashioned rain here to end out February. And you can definitely see those heavier returns as well. Some of that rain, coming down at a pretty good clip, and even extending all the way back down towards Tennessee and Virginia. I think this afternoon that'll spread into North Carolina and could even clip portions of northern South Carolina. But then after that, the storm should begin to pull on out of here. So with that said, let's go and dive into this thing and kind of break it down for you. This is our latest high-resolution rapid refresh model, and it just came out. So you're looking at it, brand new information with me here. This is kind of this afternoon time frame, so around 2 p.m. Eastern. More of the same. Interior snow into the northeast through northern Maine, northern New Hampshire, the higher terrains of Vermont there. Probably even snow there into the Adirondacks. Rain elsewhere through the northeast, and not a lot of it, but again, kind of a skinny line of showers extending from Boston all the way back down into the foothills and Piedmont of the Carolinas, specifically North Carolina. By the time we get to this afternoon, we'll keep on moving it ahead into time here and kind of watch what happens with this storm. Again, not a very strong one, but that front moves kind of offshore by this evening, and then a secondary piece of energy works in. And reminder, the cold air working in behind this front as well. This is a cold front. It's not a super strong one by any means, but enough that it's going to bring enough cold air behind it. It is still February after all. Check out some of these snow squalls. The mountains of West Virginia up through the Alleghenies, potentially as far south as the Smokies of North Carolina. Going to get a little bit of snow out of this, I think, and kind of a classic northwest flow event. Watch that almost cold core type setup. It's kind of rain in Ohio with pretty good downpours, and then that's going to be heavy snow, I think, into the mountains of West Virginia by this evening and overnight tonight, and kind of continues to run into the mountains. Gusty day tomorrow and overnight tonight with that northwest flow, so those northwestern facing slopes. Yeah, it's going to be pretty breezy. Go ahead and prepare for that, and then just scattered snow showers I think into the Alleghenies, up through the Adirondacks, could make it all the way to the Catskills and into northeastern PA by Friday morning. But the bigger story is what's behind it. Check out this Clipper system. I'll back it up just a little bit. This is Friday morning. Again, cold air moving in behind our current front, and then you get a little piece of energy to ride the boundary afterwards. It's going to bring some pretty good snowfall rates into northern Michigan, into the UP of Michigan. I think Canada is going to be the big winner here, where we could see half a foot of snow there, but this will clip portions of the northern Great Lakes. This is Friday morning. Moving it ahead into Friday afternoon. Yeah, check it out. The Finger Lakes getting in on some snow here by about 2 o'clock Friday. Moving it further ahead into time, yeah, I think the interior Northeast, per usual, going to be the winners. I-95 corridor, not so much with this storm, but again, the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, up through the mountains of New Hampshire, Maine, and then there's a chance that the down east areas of Maine get some snow, and maybe even as far south as the northern burbs of Boston there, I think could see some flakes fly, at least some wet snowflakes mixing in. But this is a pretty good little low pressure, 991 millibars. I'll kick up the wind, pretty good snowfall rates, maybe lower visibility at times as this works on through. Almost snow squally like. This is I know snow squally isn't a term, but I just made it up and we're going to use it. Overnight Friday pictured here, you can see some of those more squall-like bands of snow working in right along the low pressure, and going to bring a pretty good area of snow. That gets us here to Saturday morning, as far out as the model goes, but you kind of get the idea. Storm system pulling on out of here, and some back end northwest flow snow, and look at these lake effect bands back up towards Michigan and even down into Indiana as well by Saturday morning. And then, believe it or not, we're going to be talking about a severe weather outbreak right after this thing. So that's normal spring-like weather for you, where we've got snow and severe weather and just all the seasons and air masses clashing. This is going to be no different. Now, how much snow are we talking? Well, I think into the upper peninsula of Michigan, probably going to be the biggest winners, at least in the Midwest, out of this thing. Latest NAM model calls for anywhere from a foot of snow plus, and this is including the lake effect before and after, and then the shield of snow on kind of overnight Thursday and into Friday. But yeah, some of these totals very high. I think widespread though, about half a foot into the UP, the northern thumb, way up north into the thumb could be about the same. The further south you go, per usual, the total's going to drop off. Not going to get down to Detroit, and then on the western shores could see some of that lake effect, especially down into northern Indiana, I think, by Saturday morning in that time frame, so watching for that. But the biggest shield of snow easily going to be up here into the UP, and that's where we could see more than half a foot of snow. Now let's move it east into the northeast. Another area that it's going to really depend on where you're at and your elevation. The highest elevations of Vermont, New Hampshire could see more than a foot of snow out of the setup. Would not surprise me. You get down to the valleys, though, you might not really see much of anything. Again, it's just one of those very elevation-driven type events here. The Catskills going to see some pretty good totals. Check it out. The highest terrains in here, that's a lot of snow. I don't think we'll see 33 inches, but definitely those highest peaks will be the biggest winners. That's where we'll see more than a foot of snow. And then some lake effect again here into Erie and Buffalo, a couple of inches, maybe half a foot between the cities there. And kind of there's a city in that area I cannot remember the name of, but that area going to see some snow. And then check it out, the mountains of West Virginia. If you got any ski trips planned, shot of cold air this weekend, plus this fresh powder that's going to fly upwards of half a foot or so. Yeah, pretty good time for skiing, even though a big warm-up would happen this week and another one on the way next week. Going to be a nice little in-between time for those ski resorts by the weekend. All right. That's the snow side of things. So let's talk about the severe weather. And again, this is the part that I know you don't want to hear about. I don't want to talk about it, trust me, but unfortunately it's on the way, so we need to go ahead and discuss it. This is our upper level map on Saturday afternoon from our European Ensemble members. And you notice it's big block of blue in the east, probably really the first thing that jumps out at you. Yeah, it's going to get cold again this weekend in the eastern U.S. We've had the spring-like weather. It's going to get back down to at least average, probably really below average though for most of us, especially in the northeast and the Midwest. Meaning the Great Lakes area of the Midwest there by Saturday afternoon. But another thing to note is check out west. Not one, two troughs or little pieces of energy going to rotate in from the Pacific and towards the lower 48 of the United States by Saturday and Sunday. And these are going to cause trouble, at least one of them. The first one you're looking at here, you're like, all right, that thing looks pretty potent, and it does. That one, though, kind of actually dies out, and I'll talk about why on our next map. But then the one behind it really begins to explode and deepen, and this is, let me move it ahead, Tuesday afternoon. Folks, this is a classic look for severe weather outbreak over the plains into Dixie Alley and down into the southeast. We've got a strong trough a strong dip of energy down into the central plains. And on the right hand side, where you see all of these little kind of isotachs beginning to curve upwards, this is an area of lift in the atmosphere. And that is very conducive for severe weather to develop. So we're going to have that. And then on top of it, you've got this ridge that's going to help bring moisture back out of the Gulf. So you've got a lift in the upper levels and a lot of moisture and instability at the surface. Yeah, you add those two together, that's going to be a recipe for severe weather. And that same general process works all the way across the lower 48. And then I think behind it, maybe another storm system about 10 days from now. We won't really talk a lot about that until this one's done with, but that one could bring some wintry mischief potentially. Stay tuned for that in the long range. All right, so next map I'm going to show you here. This is our upper level energy map, and the same maps we use for winter weather are just as important for severe weather. Here's Saturday morning. Again, you see this storm out into California, you think, all right, that's got to be a big one. That's going to cause big problems. Well, watch what happens to it here. It keeps on going, and you're thinking, all right, yep, that's pretty strong, and then it kind of just fizzles out. You're thinking, well, what in the world happened? Well, what's happening in the upper levels is we've got a ton of convergence over the storm. And for these storms to kind of maintain themselves, you want divergence above them. You want what I showed you earlier where these lines spread out. Well, they're actually coming together over the storm here. So that's going to kind of suppress it and kill it off. So the first one, not a big deal. It's the one behind it. Check out all of this storm energy. This is Monday morning moving into California through the Four Corners. And then, I mean, boy, oh boy, this is Tuesday evening. Folks, this is a strong area of vorticity, a ton of lift out ahead of it. That's again a recipe for big severe weather. This is Tuesday afternoon. You keep on going into Wednesday. I mean, more of the same. We've got a lot of energy, and we're going to have some instability overlapping with that for the potential of big severe weather. And then it begins to clear on out, I think, by Thursday and Friday of this coming week. All right, so now's the part where we're going to get into kind of the nitty-gritty meteorology. We're going to use the European model. This is our upper level winds, 500 millibars. And let's kind of break it down for you. So here is our mid-level low pressure. We've also got a bit of a jet streak in here. So all of this is going to be very important for this forecast. And I'll go ahead and kind of use a couple different colors here. So this area I have in yellow, this is where we just have general lift out. Actually, let me draw it even a little bit better because it's probably something a little bit more like this. All right, that's where we have general lift out in front of the storm for the air wants to rise, basically. That's where deep convection is going to help to be initiated in the mid and upper levels. All right, now that black line, this is a jet streak. A jet streak is an area of fast winds. So you see that stripe of red, those are quicker winds. And you can always divide these jet streaks into areas. And the two areas I'm going to circle here, those are areas of the jet streak where we have, generally speaking, the same thing. More lift in the at the surface from divergence in the upper levels. All right, so the blue circles, that's favorable for severe weather, and the big yellow circle is favorable for severe weather. So let's see how many areas we can overlap here to get together. And obviously, the more circles you're in, the higher likelihood you are of having severe weather. All right, that's the kinematic part of things, or the lift part of things, right? Not even so much the kinematic. Now let's take a look at the surface where we have instability. All right, now let me pick a different color here. Let me circle where we have dew points that are relatively favorable for severe weather formation. That's in the red. All right, so you begin to see, I know the map starts looking messy, but we start combining circles and colors here, and you start to realize that they're beginning to overlap in a lot of places here. This is Tuesday afternoon. Especially down here kind of into East Texas, at least on this model. And again, I'll go ahead and preface this. This is still, 5 days away or so? So where these ingredients overlap are going to change, and doing this sort of analysis is really a lot better in the near term, but it's something I want to start in the channel in these severe weather events. So you kind of look at it and you realize, okay, well, we've got a lot of overlap into these colors in East Texas. Maybe we're going to get severe weather there. Well, it's very possible. So let's take a sounding in that area of East Texas and see what it shows. And obviously I know this is a messy map, but you know me, I'm a nerd and I like to get into the meteorology. So we've got a skew T log P diagram on the left. That's this box with the fancy lines. We'll break again all this down for you piece by piece here. And then on the right hand side, we've got a hodograph. This again kind of breaks down the wind side of things. So the right hand side, that's kinematics, that's wind shear. The left hand side, that's thermodynamics or instability. Now, a couple of things that immediately jump out to me, and obviously another thing you look at right here, PSBL hazard type, possible hazard type. The model looks at all these things and says, all right, TOR, that's saying, all right, this is a favorable environment for a tornado. And I agree with the model here because we've got a couple things ongoing. So we've got plenty of CAPE and we've got a very low LCL. That's what I have circled here. Basically, that's where the base of the cloud is, and it's very low to the ground. It's probably only about 500 meters up. That's not even half a mile off the ground. So you've got that close. So you really don't need to do a lot to get the vorticity to stretch down to the surface. Also, that means you don't need a lot of lift to get things going. If you have a very high LCL, that means you need a lot of lift to overcome that distance up to the base of the cloud to get things going. And we've got basically all CAPE from the LCL here straight all the way up into the equilibrium level, which is the top up here. Basically, again, all that just tells me thunderstorms are going to form pretty easily. Now, that is a catch-22, if you will, because that means, storms are likely to form, but what you could also do is form too many storms, and that kind of prevents storms from being more isolated in a supercellular nature. So that's something to watch on the models as we get closer. How does that trend? The next thing is this one. This is our hodograph here, and generally speaking, anytime you see a hodograph kind of curve like this, the general shape of this one, that tells me it's pretty favorable for supercells, including tornadoes. Now, this is not the prettiest hodograph I've ever seen. I've seen better hodographs. However, this is conducive enough for a tornado and something we need to watch. So basically, I know it's a fancy map. I'm going to show these more on the channel and try to explain them more, so maybe we'll get better at it here as we get further ahead into time. But shows that potential of severe weather with this sounding on Tuesday. And then we go to Wednesday. Again, Tuesday's not the only day I'm watching here. Let's do the exact same analysis here on this map and give you kind of the details. So this is Wednesday afternoon. This time, an even stronger jet streak. So we'll kind of do our line through the jet streak here. And again, as we did earlier, let's circle everywhere that there's just divergence out ahead of this line in general. So right in here is really kind of our diverging side of the storm. Let's go ahead and circle where this jet streak would be increasing lift right into here. And then let's go ahead and look at our surface dew point map and kind of find out where there's a lot of instability. I think I used this color last time, so we'll use it again. Right into here is where we have the most instability. So then you realize by Wednesday afternoon, again, we've got a lot of these circles overlapping in the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama. And it's something to watch. Now, this is just a moment in time. So if I move this ahead, for example, if I go back on the other map where we have the jet streak, if I move it, the favorable part of the jet streak is going to move with it. So generally speaking, where you see these bubbles that overlap, they're going to move together. So for example, if I kind of clear the map, we had a big area of overlapping down here into Alabama and Georgia. That would probably move this direction throughout the day. So it's probably from sunrise to sunset more like this area that has those high overlapping ingredients. But you get the point. A lot of severe weather ingredients on the table. Let's do the same thing. Take a sounding and look at it. And what do I see? Well, folks, I see a lot more of the same thing on Wednesday that I saw on Tuesday's sounding. And let me zoom into it a little bit for you here. That should be good enough. So we've got, again, the tor thing. The model says there could be a tornado. This time, this photograph, I would argue, is even more favorable than the last one. We've got a lot more SRH, or storm relative helicity here. That tells me, things are good for spinning. And then at the thermodynamic level, a little bit more sin here, and that is convective inhibition, not connective or whatever I said. But that's what limits thunderstorm activity. And you think, all right, well, that's good for us. Not necessarily. You'd want a little bit of sin, generally speaking, to have a more robust environment. The last sounding I showed you, there was no sin. That tells me we could have a lot of what chasers call crapvection. Basically, in the morning, you get these showers and storms that keeps the environment stable. A day like this on Wednesday, we've got a little bit more sin in there that could keep things a little bit more stable until the afternoon when the lid pops off, and then things could get going quickly. So this sounding arguably even more tornadic looking than the day before. A little less CAPE on this one. Sometimes it doesn't really matter all that much in Dixie Alley, so we'll see. But either way, both days suggest severe weather potential from what I'm seeing in the models, and even what the model is seeing in the models, and what the Storm Prediction Center is seeing in the model. So this brand new, hot off the press, folks, now issuing an enhanced risk for severe weather for the first day. The Tuesday day was the first day we looked at all the maps and stuff. So Shreveport, Monroe, Jackson, back over to Tyler, Texas, Southern Arkansas, Greenville, into really just much of the same areas that get it through the Arklatex, Texarkana, now in this level 3 out of 5 at 6 days out. So folks, it's just not something we see very often. The storm prediction pulls the trigger on this. And I kind of saw it coming whenever I woke up this morning. I saw the GFS and the Euro had finally come together, and I'll show you that next. yeah, this was bound to happen. So anywhere in that orange circle, that's the highest risk right now. But you zoom out, folks, it's a pretty big risk area. We're talking Knoxville to Waco. I mean, that's not a small area for next Tuesday to possibly see severe weather. So a big outbreak potential, something we need to watch. And obviously, I'll be keeping you updated. And yeah, that's not the end of it. Day 7, check it out. Where did I say the ingredients were in the east? Yeah, basically right here, especially on at least the last model, really high down here into Atlanta, Macon, and then eventually kind of worked up through the Carolinas. But Storm Prediction Center generally agrees with my analysis of the map there. And again, the other thing is the models are going to change. So when I show you the European tomorrow and we do the same breakdown of ingredients, it's going to be in a different place. But it gives you an idea of generally the process used here to forecast severe weather. And unfortunately, another risk area for Wednesday. All right. Let's take a look at some models here. This is the European model. So we'll time it out for you, move it back a little bit. This is Monday afternoon, kind of the calm before the storm. Now, we could see some severe weather Monday. You don't see anything on the model, but I think the plains, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas could get a triple point dry line, cold front, warm front kind of setup here. Would not surprise me Monday, but Tuesday is when things really get going. Check it out Tuesday afternoon. Strong low pressure deepening. That's going to increase the wind shear. We've got that instability down south. And right where I told you severe weather could happen, yeah, check it out on the model. It's happening. So, you know, there's a method to the madness, as I like to say. But either way, a strong storm system Tuesday afternoon. And then overnight, nocturnal threat could get all the way into Tennessee, maybe Kentucky. And then, you know, we're waking up Wednesday morning here. Strong squall line moving through eastern Tennessee, down towards Atlanta, back into Birmingham. Also, snow on the northern side. Haven't talked a lot about it. Check it out. We've got some snow up here through Wisconsin, Minnesota, back into Iowa, and then even into portions of Canada there. Seeing some snowfall potential. And then Wednesday afternoon below, this is when that severe weather threat could get into Virginia, the Carolinas, back down to Georgia. Now, the thing that's a little different at this point in the model is our kinematic or our low pressure here that's producing the shear is beginning to separate a little bit from the strongest thermodynamics down south. So we get a little bit of a separation between them. But we'll see how big of a deal that comes to be by the time we actually get to Wednesday. I still think with the severe weather will be a big deal Wednesday. In fact, I showed you the sounding. It was arguably more favorable than Tuesday. We'll see how it unfolds, though. I definitely think both days are going to feature severe weather. And then, like I said, that big band of snow on the northern side here, we're going to get a deformation band along this low pressure. Looks pretty likely. And then, Wednesday night, no picnic in the Northeast either. Philadelphia, New York City, rumbles of thunder, strong gusty winds probably as this works on through and keeps on moving up the coast. And then out of here, this is by Friday afternoon. Much nicer weather works in. And then check out this little guy down here. That's not far from our cold air to the north behind the storm. So maybe you start March with a little wintry mess as well somewhere in the east. Not out of the question. We'll see how that unfolds. But let's talk a little bit about the snow potential. This is our European ensembles. Again, to the north of the low pressure is where it's going to happen. This is Wednesday, Tuesday into Wednesday. You see this kind of shield of snow up into Nebraska, South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota. Not high totals here, but I think someone's going to get maybe half a foot out of this thing. It's just going to be isolated and right in the center of that deformation band wherever it does end up setting up shop. And then you notice that works up into Wisconsin, UP of Michigan, and then into eastern Canada, and then behind it, probably some northwest flow snow into the Alps as we get into next Thursday night and Friday. Temperatures, final thing I'll talk about here before I let you go. Here we go. This is on our Thursday afternoon today, obviously, and we've got warm temperatures for most of us. During the weekend, a little bit of a cool down in the east. I'll pause it right here. This is Sunday morning. Yeah, it's going to feel like winter again, especially up into the northeast, but really all the way down everywhere east of the Mississippi, back to or below average temperatures. If you hate the cold, though, don't get too sad, because right after it, ahead of our next storm system, we're going to warm up again, and it's going to feel like spring as that storm churns that Gulf moisture and humidity and warmer temperatures northward from the equatorial regions, and then cools down again behind that by the end of next week after that front. And we'll pause it there, and we'll go further ahead into time as we need to. Alrighty, folks, that's all I've got for you on this Thursday. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Again, if you haven't already and you'd like to, please go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Going to really hit severe weather hard this season. Going to go live a couple times. Now, also, a little PSA here. I will not be live next Tuesday or Wednesday. I will also not be chasing. I actually have a trip to New York City Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, so the timing really couldn't have ended up being worse in terms of keeping y'all informed. But unfortunately, I booked the trip before I ever knew this was going to happen, so is what it is, and I'll keep you up to date up through that point. I'll have videos up through Sunday. We'll not have one Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and then I'll be back Thursday right after the storm is gone. So unfortunately, going to really miss the heart of it. But it is what it is, and I'll keep you updated on social media. So definitely follow me on Twitter or X, and I'll be posting about it on there. All right, y'all have a great one. Stay safe. I'll see you all next time.